Hey X Academy, what's going on? Alan today, and we are in a three-part series on politics of the mind. And today we're looking at the battle between conviction versus opinion. I think a lot of times in culture, we waste a lot of energy on trying to channel everyone's opinions, trying to manage everyone's opinions, trying to figure out what they meant by that, what they said about that. Everyone has opinions. I mean, you can look around even today and you can see, looking around, are you a Marvel or a DC comics guy and movie guy? You know what I'm saying? You're going to look around, you're going to say, are you a soccer fan or a football fan? Are you a person who's an Apple or a Google dude? You know, there's different things. Are you a Star Wars guy or a Star Wars guy? There's really only one choice. It's Star Wars, obviously. But you know, when you look at that, you see people, and when you navigate opinions, you're looking at the thing, and all of a sudden, people's opinions start to flood into your space. And next thing you know, you've got all this sea of people's thoughts and ideas and and their beliefs. And then sometimes when we try to counter those and trying to swim and wade through that sea of people's beliefs, we can almost drown in that. We can almost begin to suffocate in that or be overwhelmed by it. And especially not only cultural opinions, but spiritual opinions are something as Christians we have to face. And as a spiritual leader, people are going to give you opinions on a lot of things. People are, if you look at the spiritual opinions of what people have nowadays, I mean, it's stuff like, is Jesus a good teacher, or is he the Son of God? You know, there's many ways to get to heaven. Another opinion, I don't believe in hell anymore. I just don't think that's necessary. I don't think God would do that. You know, whatever the spiritual opinions are of people, that's also something you have to face as a leader. And you have to come into that place of saying, well, how do I not only differentiate between an opinion and truth, but conviction, having a conviction towards something is going to be one of the strongest things you'll need as a leader. Having conviction is going to be one of the strengths that will benefit you. It will help you. It will make you a better leader, a better communicator, a better discipler when you begin to lean into and discover those convictions for yourself. Put this down. Don't let someone's personal opinion about God rearrange your personal belief in God. It's amazing how an opinion can crowd itself in there and kind of shift things around, and suddenly you're doubting, wondering, wait, how does this, I thought I believed this, maybe I don't anymore. Opinions are not meant to have that kind of strength and kind of power. When you take an opinion and you combine it with all these other things we've been talking about, fear and doubt and all these other kind of things, next thing you know, you'll start losing the strength of what your convictions are. It's like you'll know the difference between the tug of war. You'll know that tug of war between conviction and opinion. You'll identify that. And one of the earliest times you've ever identified that was when, at your time of salvation, you felt that tug of war where Jesus, the opinion was that Jesus is an option, and the conviction is Jesus is salvation. You look at both of those two sides, and at that moment, the salvation of God came, and you experienced your first personal conviction of truth in Christianity. It was when you said yes to Christ as salvation. When you had to weigh out, do I believe this or not? When you had to weigh out, is this a truth or not? That's when he looked at it and you said, now I know. Now I do believe. That moment of salvation was it for you. Here's what conviction means. Conviction is defined as a strong persuasion or a state of being. One of the root words of that is where we get the word conqueror. The root word of conviction is the word conqueror. I like that. I think because that gives it a lot of strength for you. When you look at opinions, according to Webster, if you look at the definition of Webster's definition, it means it lacks certainty. And so when you look at something like that, you can think when you're battling, when opinions and convictions are coming face to face with each other, you can have the strength that convictions are a conqueror. If you think of a gladiator ring, you can see opinions as being the gangly dude with just like, just showing up with just sandals and a shirt on, and that's, basically just, just walking into a ring with just nothing, no armor. But when you look at convictions, imagine that as when they get in that ring to battle of opinion versus conviction, he's coming out fully armor, covered in armor, ready to battle, ready to conquer. I think of even like, I put in the context of Thor Ragnarok when Korg, that rock guy, is coming out, and he says something along the line where he says, when he was giving his introduction to Thor, he says, yeah, I'm kind of like the leader here, and I tried to start a revolution, but I didn't have enough pamphlets. You can see that as opinion versus the Thor of your conviction, knowing like opinions are wimps. Opinions have no strength. Don't give them the strength that they have. I look at it this way: convictions are the muscle tissue of your beliefs. Every fiber of your being is in alignment to the movements of your beliefs. Convictions are the evidence that you believe, and it's like convictions are like that strength. They're like the muscle fiber that's in you. All of you moving together in a forward motion, working together, and even though you get the resistance, it's making you stronger. Every time you're getting pushed back at an opinion, those convictions become stronger. Those muscle fibers begin to get stronger, and they give you the strength that you need. At the center of your values and passions and actions is going to be your convictions. It's just the way it's going to be, because convictions have that kind of strength. They give you the strength. They give you the possible to the impossible in those moments, regardless of what others think. Convictions compel you to not just give opinions, but convictions raise you to the level of being an example. And I think that's important. And it's like 1 Timothy 4:12. Let no one despise you because of your youth. We know this scripture verse well, but set the believers as an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. 1 Corinthians 11:1. Follow me as I follow Christ. Ephesians 5 says, be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us. Lastly, 1 John 2:6, the one who says he abides in him ought to walk in the same manner as Jesus walked. There's something about that when you become an example, it's like those inward convictions become manifest. It's what you believe on the inside somehow starts appearing to people. When what you have on the inside for you as what you're grounding yourself in, and those convictions, those conquering ideals of truth in you begin to manifest themselves and come out, those are going to crush any opinion. And when you're looking at something like, what's my opinion on that? What do I think about that topic? What's my opinion on that issue? What's my opinion on that faith? What's my opinion on that person or that faith belief or whatever it is? Suddenly, you'll see convictions will begin. As you're battling, conviction and opinion will go to war with each other. And when that happens, those opinions will then become surrendered to conviction and will become part of your conviction, and then it will give you more strength to be that example that God called you to be. Why you need to build your life on convictions. Here's the first thing, is opinions fuel judgment and convictions fuel guidance. That's when you begin to see, when you start making judgments calls and you become, don't be judgy, and there's so much things about judgment going on and wanting, stop judging me. You'll see that opinions tend to bring that out in people, but when you get to conviction has a different tone to it. Conviction makes you believable. It compels other people to believe. The difference between condemnation and conviction is interesting. Condemnation tells you who you are. Conviction tells you who you are. That's why shame is a counterfeit conviction. Shame will always attack your identity. It will come at you and tell you what a bad leader you are, a bad father you are, a bad son you are, a bad mom you are, a bad girlfriend you are. Shame will always attack your identity, but convictions always reaffirm your choices and will show you good choice, bad choice. That doesn't line up with the truth you have. That's why shame is a counterfeit conviction. It will always sabotage you no matter what. And so that's why shame is one of the worst things you can experience as a Christian. That's why God says in Romans 8:1, when it says in Romans 8:1, it says, there's no condemnation to those who are in Christ. Because when you align yourself with Christ and dig deep into Christ, it allows you to be, and that's why Romans 8, at the end of Romans 8, it says you're more than a conqueror. That whole chapter on Romans 8:1 through the end of Romans 8 is about battling your condemnation, reminding you who you are, and becoming out as more than a conqueror. And that's what God says you are. And that's what convictions do. They confirm you're a conqueror. Another thing is, convictions are what keep you grounded. Convictions are the glue that keeps you grounded. And you look at, that's why when you look at social media comments, you look at opinions on Facebook, you have all these people doing some of these things where you're getting flooded with opinions. Conviction keeps you grounded. Everyone has something to say about how you're doing it. Everybody has something to say about how you're living it. But convictions confirm the truth. I'll look at Mary and Martha over in Luke 10:42. Mary and Martha were experiencing Jesus together, and Martha was running around trying to get things ready, trying to do things, and she throws her opinion out, like, Mary, my opinion, Mary, is you should be working. My opinion, Mary, is you should be serving me. My opinion, Mary, is you need to be doing this. And Mary looks past, pushes away and past the opinion of what was done culturally. She should have been serving Jesus. She should have been doing all these things to line up with the cultural opinions and the household opinions and Martha's opinion. But she chooses to resist it all, and she comes on the floor, falls on the floor, and she begins to sit at the feet of Jesus. And Jesus, who makes the comment, he says, only one thing's necessary. Mary has chosen the good portion, and it will not be taken away from her. Mary knew only one thing matters here. I have a conviction here that one thing matters. It's sitting at the feet of Jesus. And when you get a conviction of steel like that, it pushes past all the cultural norms, all the opinions of those around you, and it puts you in the right position. Literally, she went on the ground. She was grounded with Christ, sitting on the ground, listening at the feet of Jesus. That's the power. That is the power of conviction in your life. Lastly, conviction leads to courage. Conviction leads you to courage, and opinion causes you to settle. Conviction gives you strength to take risks, to step out, to do things you've never done before, to walk into places and do things that are meant and destined for you that you don't even know are there yet. And opinions allow you to sometimes think too hard about something or weigh the options too much, or opinions will cloud the future and the truth of what God wants to do. I think of I would say this, really, conviction is the difference between surviving and thriving at the end of the day. I mean, you look at Blockbuster, the CEO of Blockbuster, John Antioco. He was faced with the opportunity. Remember when Blockbuster in the 80s was all around, and you saw that big blue ticket everywhere? Blockbuster was everywhere in the 80s and the 90s. You can't find a Blockbuster anywhere. And the reason why is because there came a moment when the CEO of Blockbuster was faced with the CEO, Reed Hastings of Netflix. And there came a moment when Reed approached John from Blockbuster and said, I would love to buy Blockbuster. I can see blue boxes everywhere being put in stores where you could rent movies and rent films, and being able to kind of take your business and do something different with it, or whatever, basically a version, taking Blockbuster and moving it into the boxes like Redbox. And something happened there is when Netflix approached him, he listened to the opinions of others. Came a point when he said, and at the end of the day, he goes, no, I don't need it. I don't think that's gonna be beneficial to us. Walking away from now Netflix is worth $170 billion, and Blockbuster is one store. Conviction fuels your courage, and opinion fuels your entourage. He listened to the voices of all of the people of Blockbuster when he should have been listening to his conviction of buying that instead. It would have been a very different place for him. It would have been a different story for him. We'd be having blue boxes everywhere versus red boxes. So, lastly, is opinions lead to erosion and corrosion, but conviction leads to progression. Opinions make you digress, convictions make you progress. And that's the thing about opinions. Opinions will chip away at your confidence. It will cause you, as a young leader, you'll start being ruled by what people think about you. Opinions will start to dominate instead and cloud your head. and it'll get in your head. But opinions of what others say about you is no match for the mind of Christ in you. That's what's the beauty about embracing and allowing convictions for you to be guided by them, is it's no match for the mind of Christ that's in you. It says in Hebrews 10, don't throw away your confidence. It will be richly rewarded. You need to persevere so that when you have done the will of God, you will receive what He has promised. That's the truth. Don't lose your confidence. If there's anything that we can learn from this, is God says, don't lose it. Don't throw it away. Don't lose your confidence, because it is essential for you to become the leader that you are destined to be. Thanks again, Acts Academy. Keep swinging away. I love that we get to hang out together, and we will be talking to you soon.